Well, good morning to some and good afternoon to some. Whatever time zone you're joining us from, welcome. We're glad you're with us. We appreciate you giving us your time and attention and agreeing to have a beer with us. I know, as you've seen from our advertising, that beer is an acronym that we use for a tool to kind of do a check-in on ourselves and to see what we're experiencing physically and mentally and emotionally right now in the present moment. Um, so if I understand it right, this is really not a good tool for what happened yesterday, what we're planning on having happen tomorrow, but just for the present. Check in for right now. Um, and it's not meant just for first responders. Anybody can use this, and if you find it useful, you may want to share it with your spouse or family members, people you go on ambulance calls with. We know of a couple that uses this very often, and they every now and then they'll just stop and say, time for a beer, and they check in and see how things are going with each other, and a good way to keep track of each other and care for each other. So we hope this will work for you. As we kind of look back in this year, one of the comments that I keep hearing over and over is how fast this year has flown by. It just seems like from everyone, not just old people like me, because that's how years go by as you get older. We perceive time differently as we age. It goes by faster than it does for young people. But even young people are telling me that this year has really just flown by. It just been really fast. And it may have been a fast year, but a lot has happened this year. Our first responder community has had some devastating losses, and we're a pretty small group. We get pretty tightly knit group in our communities, and so any loss is a real tragedy for us. And now, as the holidays are approaching and winter is kind of set in, and I know cloudy days with hardly any sunshine, and it's dark at 4:30, and the sun doesn't start peeking above the houses across the street until about 7:30 or later. It can be kind of depressing, and so and especially for people families, friends who have lost loved ones, and we hope as the year progresses, you'll keep those people in your thoughts and prayers. So we're going to talk more about beer in a few minutes, and we're going to ask some questions of you. We're not going to pick on any of you, as much as I like to do that. We're not going to pick on anybody to share your answers with us. These things can get kind of personal, and so we're not going to put anybody on the spot. But you're more than welcome to share your thoughts and your experiences with us. And if you have a pen and a piece of paper and you're in a place where you can write, maybe think about jotting down your answers and your thoughts, and they may change by this time tomorrow. Maybe you want to kind of review what was going on today. Also, you can use the chat. We have somebody monitoring that, and if we have time at the end of our webinar, Corey will work her magic and open up everybody's microphone, and we can visit with each other. So, like I said, we're not going to pick on any of you, but we do have members of the Mental Health Committee who have agreed to speak from the heart and talk about their experiences and the positive ways that they've found to cope. And we want to keep this a very positive webinar, because learning ways to stay positive can make a huge difference. And Cheryl, you experienced that not long ago, that what a difference a positive attitude can make, right?
Yeah, I had talked to Lynn not that long ago, and I was telling him how our harvest went. and we were kind of on a roll, and then we got socked with 15 inches of snow and 2 inches of rain, and everything was kind of set up to make the last half of harvest just miserable. And my husband and my brother-in-law gathered us all in the office, and they just said, every day we make progress is going to be a good day. Our goal every day is to send everybody home safe. And we had probably the hardest harvest in 43 years of farming that I've ever experienced, physically and logistically, but mentally it wasn't bad, just because every single one of those guys went out with a positive attitude. We would get together in the morning and start off positive, and then on the way home in the service truck, we would kind of laugh about what went right and what went wrong. And it was such a different attitude than I've seen us have during a harvest time. And I owe it all to my brother-in-law and my husband, because they set the tone for it and they did a great job.
And that can make such a huge difference in everybody's attitude. Just staying positive, finding positive ways to deal with issues. So, did Kurt have to leave, or is Kurt still on?
No, he had to leave. He had to go on an intercept run.
Oh, okay. Well, I was talking to Kurt about beer, and not only real beer, but this one too. And we both, it seems like when we were starting to use this, felt a little awkward. Felt like it maybe a little confusing and maybe a little hard to explain to people that we wanted to share it with. So I think we're going to actually talk about each of the letters now, and kind of explain how we see them and how we've used them. And PJ, I think you're going to start us out, right?
I am. And like Lynn said, feel free to grab a piece of paper and just kind of jot down your answers to the question. And I as well felt a little awkward and trying to wrap my brain around like how to go through this process. And the more I did it, the easier it's become. It's just one of those things where you just hit pause in your life for a moment and you think, what is my body doing, and what am I engaged with? How am I feeling emotionally, and what am I connected to? It's just a quick little kind of a checklist for your brain to kind of go through to see where you are right now. So the first one that we talk about is our bodies. And when I think about like what's happening in my body, it all depends on how I get up in the morning. Does it hurt to get out of bed? That happens more and more as you get older, I've found. But just kind of realizing like, what do I feel? Do I feel sore? Do I feel like I need to move my body? Especially if you've been sitting at the desk for a while, or you're just getting done with a long transfer or a long car trip. If you're feeling a little stiff, you might need to pull over, stand up, stretch a little bit, but just trying to see how you feel, and does it feel good? And if it doesn't really feel good, is there anything that I can do to feel better? Like again, stretching, standing up, or sitting down. I also think about our bodies are our vehicle to what we achieve every day. And if we think about our vehicle, we're pretty good about, I know most people are pretty good about going in and having their oil changed when they need it, changing their tires when they look like they need it, having those 12-point inspections. And if we think about our body that way, I mean, not many times would we just buy a vehicle from the dealership and then just drive it until it was dead. I mean, we wouldn't really do that. We want to take care of it. And so I think, well, maybe we should start treating our bodies like we do our vehicles. So I'm gonna do my own 12-point inspection and see like, how do my muscles feel, my joints feel, my brain feel, how am I breathing, and those types of things, and really do that checkup like we should be, and like we do for a lot of other things. If something breaks in our home and we fix it, sometimes when my body hurts, I don't really fix it. I just deal with it and move on. And it's probably not the best thing, but just like the picture says, treat your body like the most amazing machine ever designed, because that's what it is. Fuel it properly, challenge it, give it rest. So just listen to it, and be mindful of how you're feeling physically. I think that's, an important step one, and that's easy to do most every day, is just take a quick second just to say, what's going on right now within myself. The next letter is E, and that is for engaging your mind. And this is one that I feel is really important, because a lot of times we go through life and there's a lot of noise and everything is so busy, and we kind of forget to check in with our brains. And a lot of times what's going on in your mind becomes what's in your life. So if your mind is feeling very chaotic, a lot of times that comes out in your daily activities, in your daily life, and vice versa. If we're busy running around and kind of all over the place, most of the time when you check in with your mind, you realize your mind is in that same place. So if we can try to control our minds a little bit and just check in and say, holy smokes, I'm pretty scattered, and what do I need to focus on today? How do I get my brain to become present? So just stopping, thinking about where your mind is. Is your mind heavily thinking on things that are going on in your personal life, with your family, with your friends, or are you really focused on work right now? And then also, on that other hand, recognizing where it's at, and then asking yourself if that feels like that's a healthy place for your mind to be. And if it's not, how do you get your mind to be in that healthy place? And for me, lately, my mind has been, and I don't want to cry, and I always feel like I cry, but so sorry, but Christmas is not easy for us this year. Sorry. So my mind has really been engaged with wanting to go to the negative, feeling sad at those types of thoughts, but I have to stop myself, and then I have to remind myself, like, there's lots of good memories, and we had one last great Christmas, and those types of things. And so I think it's important to just be present with where your mind is and acknowledge it. And if you're in an angry place because you just had a fight with a sibling or a coworker, it's okay that you feel that anger, but then how are you going to get past it? And find a plan that says, okay, I think I'm just going to go take a walk around the block, and then I'm going to come back and maybe say I'm sorry, or let the other person know how I'm feeling, and then move on from it from there. And then I think,
PJ, have these become habits for you?
yeah, so a lot of times, I think it actually started last year, like going through the process of having a sick loved one. I got to like kind of the bottom of the barrel where my body physically felt awful. My mind was crazy. I didn't feel engaged or connected to really anything. And I realized that I was in a really unhealthy place, like total body health was very, very poor. And I had to make a decision that said, how do I fix this? And I kind of came back to the beer algorithm, or the beer, it's not algorithm, I forget what the word is called, but came back to that. And I was like, all right, let's recognize, how do I make my body feel better? Do I need sleep? Yes, I need sleep. So going into the doctor and saying, I'm really having trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, and getting medication to help me with that, because I knew that was an important thing. Same with like eating healthy. I was putting junk in my body, so I was feeling junky. And so since that happened, it's kind of just become something that I do often, like many times a day. I check in with where I'm at, and that just kind of helps me keep moving forward and not getting stuck in past thoughts or feelings. Or even, I'm a planner, so I like to get stuck in the future, and I don't really know what's going on right in that minute. So yeah, I've really tried to make it become a habit.
Yeah, so you mentioned about staying present. So it doesn't have to be a big issue in your life that makes you want to come back to being present. It can be just little little everyday things. The other morning I was washing my face and I was going to shave, and I had the soap in my hands and I was scrubbing really fast because I was running late and I had this to do and that to do, and my mind was someplace else. And as I was scrubbing my face, my right little finger went right up my nose, and my plans for the morning changed because now I had to deal with a bloody nose. If I would have been present and just washed my face, I wouldn't have had to do that. Now you would think that with a nose my size, you could get a small vehicle up there and not do much damage, but just that little fingernail um, changed my whole morning. And so even just little things that we're doing, it's hard for me to stay present in those little things and keep my attention on what my attention is on. So yeah, I think what you've talked about is really important. Yeah. Deanne, I think you're going to finish out the last two letters.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mic. So our second E is emotion. And when we think about emotion, what are we feeling right now? I love this slide. To master your emotions is not to suppress them, is to process them with diligence and express them with intelligence. So when we think about the second E in beer, we think about how we're feeling emotionally. Are we feeling happy or sad? Sometimes indifferent, just kind of blah? Or are we feeling excited? It's important for us to remember to acknowledge our feelings. Don't stuff them. We have to try not to ignore them. And having this E in beer helps us to acknowledge those emotions. Sometimes we try to dull or distract or avoid our emotions that we're feeling. And really, when we do that, they tend to fester up in us until they become maybe an explosion of emotions. So use that E, that second E in beer, to really acknowledge those emotions, understand, recognizing them as first, and then working to understand our emotions, thinking about why we're feeling this, and what should we do with it, and recognizing if our reactions to those emotions are healthy for us. One emotion that I have a really hard time with is anger. So I work hard to find the techniques that work for me to be able to identify my anger, recognize that I have anger, and then find a healthy way to deal with that anger.
Deanne, when you're dealing with that, have you found yourself using distracting and avoidance sometimes?
Yeah. I I am a workaholic. So there are many times that I have found myself uh, uh, pushing myself harder into work when I am feeling those more negative things. So instead, I try to recognize that, and find those techniques that work for me to find redirection, something that's more healthy for me. For me, I use journaling a lot. I have a gratitude journal that I write in. I keep one actually at home and in my office at work, so that I can write my thoughts of gratitude. And sometimes when I'm feeling that emotion that I have a hard time with, anger, I try to find something within what's making me angry that I'm grateful for. And that helps me cope with that, with the anger better.
Yeah, I think gratitude is such an important part of our lives. And I read a story about a guy who every morning when he woke up, he said thank you 3 times, just because he woke up. And he starts his day out with gratitude, and makes such a difference sometimes in his days. So good
Love
thing to.
that. I challenge my students to start each day with 3 things they're grateful for and end each day with 3 things they're grateful for. And I find that for myself, saying those things out loud, it is really beneficial for me. I'm an auditory person. So saying it out loud is what works best for me. So the last letter in our beer is R, and it's what are you related to or connected to right now, or maybe disconnected from? So today is my first day of winter break. So I feel more connected to my home and my dogs, and I feel a bit disconnected from work, um, which is a good thing for me. It is, I recognize that I need to disconnect myself from work sometimes. So when we think about what our connections are with our family, our coworkers, our friends. Thinking about what we're disconnected from. Are you feeling disconnection from coworkers or family or friends? My dog apparently is feeling disconnected from me right now. Take a look at the environments you live in and surround yourself with. When I think about this, I got to tell you just a quick little story. Something that helped me as a young single mom, when I was throwing myself back into college and I had 3 babies to take care of and just myself to do all that. I met this woman. This woman was in my life, and she told me a story of basement people and balcony people. That there are some people who choose to look at life from the balcony, and others who choose to look at life from the basement. And her definition of that was those balcony people are positive and out in the sunshine and finding solutions and really moving forward. And the basement people were people that, kind of stay in the doom and the gloom and don't try to move forward, get stuck in that muck and dust of the basement. And she said to me, Deanne, think about who you're surrounded by. Think about who you put in your space. It can make a huge difference on your own attitude and your own mindset with those people who are surrounding you. Are they out on the balcony in the sunshine or the doom and the gloom of the basement? And that has stuck with me. So my children were babies, like 2, 3, and 5 years old when this woman gave me this insight. And now they're all in their 30s. So it has stayed with me through all those years. And I remind myself very often that I want to be that balcony person. And I strive to be that balcony person. So when I find myself sinking to the basement, I try to think about the balcony. So that's one of the things that just really comes to my brain when I think about the R in beer. How do I want to connect and disconnect with people?
What a great story. So we told you we were going to be asking some questions. Here are some more. And Kyle is going to give us his perspective and some of his answers. Kyle?
So when Lynn told me that I was going to be presenting on balance, I kind of had a chuckle with him on the phone, because of anybody who should be presenting on balance, it probably is not me, because we all know that my balance is like yin and yang. Give it a certain day and we're going to be swinging one way or the other way. But so we're going to give this an old college try and see where we get. But what is balance, right? When we look at balance in life, do we have too much of one? Do we have too little of something else? We want to try to have a good balance of a little bit of everything, right? Whether that is our personal lives, whether that's work, fitness, our emotional happiness, it all plays into our balance. And how do you know when you're balanced? And I think that's a question that's different for everybody. What Lynn calls balance to me might not be balance, and what I call balance, so Lynn will look at me and say, you're out of your mind. Because for me, balance is running from the time I get up to the time I go to bed at night. I enjoy being busy. I enjoy all the aspects of life that is given to me. And so when I have downtime, that's when I feel out of balance. That's when I feel the emotional toil of I'm being lazy and all that other stuff. But we also have to throw that out the window too, because we need that time of laziness, right? We need that time to just kind of rest and relax and get back into a norm. And if we don't give ourselves that time to truly veg out and relax to get back to norm, are we ever going to be in that work-life balance? It's hard for a lot of us. A lot of us, I think, if you read a lot of the studies, we're all ADHD or ADD or whatever else not in EMS, right? So it's hard for us to not have that guilty feeling when we try to just veg for a little bit. But we need to have that as well in our life. So I think balance is different for everybody. And I think you need to find your own personal balance and go with it. And do you know when your life is out of balance? I can guarantee you your family knows when your life is out of balance. My wife will tell me when my life starts getting out of balance. I can walk in the house and she can take one look at me and she can know exactly something's going on. If you have kids, if you have significant others, they're all going to know when your life is out of balance. And is it fair to them when we come home when our life is out of balance because work has made us out of balance? I mean, that's one of the things that I've had to take a tough look into the mirror over the last couple months, because it hasn't been balanced. And is it fair to those around us? Is it fair that our work takes precedence over everything else? I think it's time that EMS providers start to be greedy and start to get our lives in balance and know that, yes, we're providers, but we're also providers for our family. We also have to be there for our loved ones and our friends. So how do you find that balance? Right? Do you take those trips? Deanne loved to just get away and shut off her phone and go on a cruise or wherever it is. That's not me. I don't want to fly. I don't want to go overseas. That scares me. I mean, going down to Rapid City, now that's relaxing to me. That's where I find my balance, right? So I think everybody needs to kind of take that step back and look at everything and find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Anybody else have any thoughts on balance out there? PJ says I just have to jump to the next screen. Thanks, PJ.
Does it take you a while to get back into balance when you know you're out, Kyle?
You know, it depends on what we're dealing with, right? So if we start dealing with a lot of negativity and you have those negative aspects of work, we all have them, right? How do we deal with them? And I think that's kind of where this group kind of keeps going is how do we deal with those negatives? How do we change them to find the positive in everything? Because if we can find the positive in it, it makes that negative a little less negative. And so, you know, balance is tough. How do you maintain that balance? I don't think you're ever going to maintain a balance, but you have to be able to swing that yin and yang and get back to it.
And Kyle, I feel like, you know, sometimes when I look at my balance and I know I feel a lot of balance and I'm trying to put myself there, it can cause a little turmoil or upset the apple basket in the family because when I feel balanced, I don't know if that's if my kids are feeling balanced or if my husband's feeling balanced because we're different. Like I like to be home at night and do a certain routine at night. That's how I get balance for the day. And like my husband, on the other hand, he wants to continue working and his balance is going to the garage. And so it sometimes does cause a little conflict, but I feel like we're trying to, you know, understand each other and to come to some sort of balance in our own, you know, relationship. And I feel like I've heard that from others that, you know, when you're feeling good, it might mean someone else isn't feeling good. And how do you, you know, I don't know if you experience the same thing, Kyle, or how do you work that out in your household?
Oh yeah. So my wife is more of the homebody. My wife, you know, she goes to work. She's a nurse, does her thing, comes home, and she enjoys being home with the kids and that aspect. I'm total opposite. I like to be busy and out talking to people and doing civic duties. And so you have to find that home life balance too, right? Of your home, of what is balanced for you and your spouse, your significant other, your kids. Because I could go 24/7 if I wanted to, but I know I can't. I know that they deserve that part of me. And I brought them into this world, right? And they deserve, I didn't bring them in. Hold on, now I'm getting some dirty looks from some other people on this camera. I didn't bring them into this world. My wife did all that, yes, but I had a part in it. And so, but they deserve that part of me as well, right? They don't deserve to be kicked to the curb because, oh, the pager's going off, or, oh, I should go teach this class, or I should go do that. We need to come to the realization that, you know, that ambulance will be there tomorrow. Somebody else can step up and help out and give us that time.
Lindsay, you have a busy lifestyle, you and your husband both. How do you work on this?
I think some of it is about getting clear on what you both want and then not forcing the other to your own balance of what you like. So accepting that, you know, for me, it might be sitting at home with my kids, vegging out. And for him, it might be going out with friends and having, you know, maybe a cocktail and maybe visiting. But I think not trying to force what either works for either of us on each other, but I think when I think about getting out of balance or getting back into it, I usually have stopped working on the habits that kind of help me get into balance. So I think with everything, even, you know, diet, exercise, mental health, we kind of just want to fix it and forget it. So usually for me, it's getting back to, am I doing the habits that make me feel better? Am I moving my body? Am I journaling? Am I taking care of myself? Am I kind of doing, I think in general, like people usually that like to help people sometimes don't help themselves. And so, thinking about what would I tell a friend if they were telling me the same thing, rather than being hard on myself for not doing something or not, whatever it might be. I try to think of myself as a friend rather as kind of the individual. And I think one of the things about being out of balance is just also just accepting when you are out of balance and going, I'm focusing more on family this week. So maybe next week I gotta double kick it at work, or vice versa, because it's usually not just 50-50 every day. You kind of got to take a more cumulative approach to looking at life. And so I think, but just giving attention and habits to what you're trying to make happen is what I think helps.
Yeah, thank you. Good advice.
So we'll just take a second, and I want everybody to just kind of read this and think about what it says. So one of the things that John says is EMS sees a lot of shit, right? We see a lot of not good stuff out there. And one of the things that we need to do a better job of is hunting that good and finding the good in everything that we're dealt with. And so it's time that we become greedy. It's time that we as providers start being greedy about this wonderful mission that we've been put on here for, right? We are allowed to see some of the most amazing things in this world. Right? We've seen births, we've seen some amazing deaths, holding the hand of someone as they're dying. To me, that's an amazing process that we are given that opportunity to deal with. But we are also dealt with some of that other nasty calls. And so we need to be greedy. When we have those good calls, we need to hold on to them and find the good in all those and continue holding on to those good. Because if we don't, we're going to get unsatisfied in EMS. And we need to remember why we got into this in the first place. What is satisfying us? What is it that keeps us hopping on this truck time and time again? I can guarantee you, we all complain about those calls. How many times do we high five each other and talk about those good calls? How many times do we have those crew meetings where we have call review? And is it any of the good calls that we ever review? No, right? We never review a good call, or very rarely. It's always the ones that had something going on with it. I think we need to change that mindset, because if we start talking about more and more of the good and talking about more and more of what is satisfying us, I think it's going to change our culture of EMS. I really do. I think the culture of EMS will change, and instead of having the old salty people, we're going to find those that are going to want to come and enjoy it again. The ones that are going to come on those calls and find that good. We need to remember what brought us here, what contributions brought us to EMS, the positive contributions, right? We might have got into EMS because of nobody else wanted to join, or there was that nasty call that we felt that we couldn't help with. But it was all because of a reason to serve and have that joy and be part of these events that most people will never ever have the opportunity to be part of. So how do you explore it, and how do you find your rewarding aspects of this? Right? We don't need to have that party and say, hey, this was an amazing call. But I think after every call, we should probably stop and think about that and the experiences that we had and the rewarding and positive aspects of it. I really like this picture, and I really like this saying, as it's a true honor for us to be part of this. it's time for us to be greedy.
I really like that last sentence too. What an honor. Just Carrie, you've been honored to do this for a long time. What are you experiencing now that is still keeping you a part of EMS?
Well, I think what Kyle said, really is speaks to me because we've had some tough ones this last year, really, really tough calls. And like Kyle said, we gotta hunt for the good and remember the good things that we've been a part of and the difference that we've made in the good calls, and that we can make a difference for the families in those bad and tough calls too. Yeah, so I guess what Kyle said, hunt the good and consider what we do an honor to be of service to not only the people that we know and our friends and family, but people that we may not, maybe it's the first time we've ever met them, is on a call. So we have some opportunities.
The idea of hunt the good, I think, is so important. And we've talked about doing a webinar just on hunting the good and ways to do that. And I hope we can put that together and give that idea to people. Tom, I think you probably had more years helping the people in your community than maybe any of the rest of us on the call. You've been in EMS for quite a while now. You're so old.
Yeah, I've been here a little bit.
You're actually younger than I am. I just have to give you a hard time. But you've been able to be such an important part of your community for a long time. What's positive for you that keeps you there?
The people that I work with, that's a huge part of it. I'm blessed with a wonderful group, as many of you are. I think it's important as squad leaders, and I haven't been that my whole career, but off and on throughout it, I think it's important to keep checking in with our teams on a regular basis, not just after the bad calls. The percentage of calls that we would consider bad are 1 to 5, 6, 8%. There's a whole lot of calls out there that you do an awful lot of good for people just by holding their hand and listening to their stories. I think it's important to touch base with our people and make sure that they realize that, not that they're getting bored by those type of things. That's a huge part of EMS, is just being there for our patients, not the traumas, not the horrible calls, but just checking in with them on a regular basis. This year we had an awful event that actually turned out really well for the majority of our kids. We had a bus crash with 27 people involved, 28 counting the other driver, and you look for the good things that happened there. Yeah, the kids got hurt, but man, it could have been so much worse. And the fact that we as EMS providers in our whole region who responded to that, and this goes on a daily basis anywhere in the state. People respond and help each other, and and look for the good things that happen in those calls as well, not just the horrific stuff. Getting back to things that were said earlier in the hour, keeping a positive attitude first thing you get up in the morning, and I think that's huge. Really, really good stuff to think about, and then rethinking about what you have had during that day that's been good. A lot of good stuff to think about. And as squad leaders, I think it's really important to keep checking in on our teams on a daily, weekly basis, not just after the bad calls. See how they're doing.
Yeah, really important. It is. Yep. PJ, are we moving on?
Yeah, I was, talking about engaging, other members of our squads and things like that. I think, a crew meeting is a great way to, invite everyone to have a beer with you and bring a piece of paper and a pen and have them just kind of write down where their body is, what their mind's engaged in, how emotionally they're feeling, and who they're connected to or disconnected to or what. And just quick starting off the meeting like that. And I think it's something that's quick and easy to do. And if anyone needs assistance on how to ask the questions and those types of things, let us know and we'll help you with that. But I think all of this is very positive, and it's exciting that others are interested in trying to, if we're going to stay in this profession, we need to be healthy in it. And I really appreciate what Kyle said, and
Yeah.
all the others is, it's okay for us to be selfish and take time for ourselves. And I'm not very good at facilitating. There we go, Lynn.
Yeah, this is the crisis hotline or lifeline, suicide and crisis lifeline. Please take advantage of that if you need to. Easy number to remember, and I think kind of building on what PJ said, that we've heard such good stuff today, and I think we have one more thought. PJ?
Yeah, and with this, with 988, so I have looked into it a little bit. I've been giving this number out for a very long time, and I kind of just went on and see if there's anything new. And some of the features that they have available now is that text or that chat. And so if someone doesn't feel comfortable calling and talking to somebody, they can send a text message to 988 and also, talk with somebody that way. Or even on the website, they can go through a chat method. And so it doesn't have to be so invasive feeling, calling somebody on the phone. I know sometimes that will kind of turn people off, but just let others know that there is a way to communicate in other ways with this number.
Yeah. Yep. And then our last slide.
Shoot. Sorry, Lynn, I was muted. I was talking to nobody. So we ran into this slide, and we really felt that it, expressed what we were talking about today. And a lot of that is just trying to be present within the moment and taking time when your life gets crazy and you're feeling overwhelmed. Just take a few seconds and really let yourself feel where you are. And it doesn't have to be some big extravagant, sit with your legs crossed on the floor and all this. It just a minute and be present. So we'd encourage all of you to be present and open to the moment that is unfolding before you. Because ultimately your life is made up of moments, so you don't miss them by being lost in the past or anticipating the future. And I feel in this day and age, with so much going on and our abilities to be communicated with or to communicate to so readily available, it's easy to get lost in planning the next moments of your life. But we encourage you just to take a few moments and find out where you are now.
Yeah, I remember when my son was young, things were so busy, I missed moments. Now I have 2 grandsons, and I try really hard not to miss those moments anymore, because they're so important. So, anyone have anything to add? Any other comments? Corey, we have a couple of minutes. Anything in the chat, or if we open the mics up, does anyone have anything to add?
Everyone will be getting moved to panelists here shortly, and then they'll be able to use their mic freely.
Okay, great.
Lynn, while Corey's doing that, we can kind of, if you wanted to talk a little bit about our next upcoming web series for 2024.
Yeah, we're going to do a series starting in, I think it's January 11th is the plan right now, involving providers. And the thought was, what if it's us? We are so used to responding to other people that the page is always for somebody else. The tones are for somebody else. We tend to think maybe we're invulnerable, but we're not, and things can happen to us. And so when that happens, how do we cope? And right now we have 4 sessions lined up. PJ is going to start us out, unless she's on jury duty. And then we have 3 others. We have a long-time EMS person who was given a very serious diagnosis, and a firefighter who has gone through some stuff. We have a physician who's been really involved with EMS over the years, who had to deal with his own diagnosis instead of giving it to other people. So we're going to put these together. We hope we can have one every month. That may not work out with everybody's schedules, but our hope is to have a webinar every month until summer. So maybe through June, maybe we'll stop before June, I don't know. But we want to try and have one every month. And we hope you'll join us. Hope you'll be a part of that. We'd love to hear from you. And right now, I see somebody on. We'd love to hear from Melinda.
Yeah, and Deanne can tell you that it's been a rough year for me. Started off a good week of first week of paramedic school last year, and then kind of had a little rough start after that when I got in the accident. And then it just was like a domino effect there, because from that, trying to keep up with school and recovering injury, then I had a suicide in my area that I had to go to. It would just been like a downhill spiral. Deanne's been very helpful, very supportive.
What are some of the positive things you've done to get kind of back on track?
Her and Kelly encouraged me to go to the BSC school counselor, and I talked to her until I finished this semester for about a year now. Just trying to stay positive, focus on health and fitness, and then one of my bus driver co-worker, his son's my junior firefighter in our fire department. He kind of been very good and supportive too, and we're talking about doing ice fishing, because I've never done ice fishing since we moved here yet. So planning something positive, and every time, sometimes when I get stressed, I get up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I really am just not going to have a good day. And a little voice, a little birdie saying, what you grateful for? That ingrained in my brain. Thank you, Dan. And I'll say something positive, and then I have a pretty good day because right now I've been running route buses for a route drivers on medical leave and getting up 5 in the morning and you're like, oh. But then I say something grateful for, and then having the kids getting on the bus and giving me lots of love, and got a Christmas present for one of the girls this morning. And that kind of little positive things, walking into school and have half the school kids hugging me, that's kind of helps make me say, this is where I need to be. This is why I do what I do, because the positive I get from the kids.
Yeah, what a great story. You have positive people in your life and have gratitude and yeah, that's. And anybody else have any out there have anything you want to add?
Hi, Lynn. I just
Hi.
wanted to add, I like to think of if you think of yourself like a water pitcher, and we give and give and give. We're in a caring profession, and we care for our families, we care for in our jobs, we care for the people in our communities. Every now and then that water pitcher needs to be filled back up. And so don't feel guilty for taking care of yourself. You need to fill it back up so that you can continue to give. So taking time to fill that pitcher up again so that you can continue to give.
Yeah, what a great way to think about it. Yeah. Thank you, Marcy. Well, looks like we're running out of time here. As we close, though, I want to thank all of you again for being with us. Really thank everybody who shared with us. That's not an easy thing to do sometimes, and we really appreciate your thoughts and your advice. Thank you, PJ. You put this slideshow together. You did such a great job of finding meaningful slides for us to look at. Just remember now, as we go into the holidays and winter months, that if you're struggling, you're not alone. Please reach out to somebody. Reach out to one of us. We're good listeners and we have big shoulders, and we'll try and help. So thank you again for being here. We wish all of you a safe and healthy and happy Christmas and New Year. Thanks for all you do, and we hope to see you next month on our webinar. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.